Hello, this is Ruse, a city in Bulgaria on the river Danube, and this time of year it's really hot here, so I'm not in the sun very much. There's lots of shade with the big trees here. Quite a journey to get here today because I flew from Liverpool to Bucharest in Romania. The flight times are not great, and the border controls on both sides of the river are pretty long-winded. And I'll tell you more about that as we go along, but first let's have a look around this public area in Ruse. The first thing that's worth a mention while I was standing there, well, it might not be worth it given what happened, is I had a friendly cat. Most of them run away around here, they're very wild. So I thought, I'd film this cat being friendly. As soon as I got the camera out, it started rubbing up to that and pushing the camera away, so that wasn't a very successful operation. Since I've been here, I've been wandering around this square. It definitely seems a family place, and as you can see from some of the pictures, there's a lot of people just milling around here. I've had my Snickers ice cream. I've shaded under a lot of trees to keep out of the heat, and I've gone up to a lot of these waterfalls that there are here, and I got a nice spray from them. So all in all, a very pleasant look around Ruse. And I feel that we're going to have to come back here real soon. As we head towards dusk, I head down towards the river Danube, which is a bit lower down than the city centre street level, and I walk along the riverfront for a short while. Looking up towards the street above, I can see a restaurant, and it's getting near time for me to have my evening meal, so I head back up a spiral walkway. It's a ramp that curls around and takes you back up to street level, and from there I just walk into the terraza where I have my meal and watch the sunset over Romania. It's dark as I walk back up to my hotel, which is in a square. I was supposed to be staying in this family square hotel, which you can see to the left of street food, but there was a problem with my bathroom, so the owner took me a few doors along and paid for me to be in a slightly better hotel, which was very nice of him. Our next travel destination is back in the UK at Telford in Shropshire, and we arrive there and take a quick walk round the lake before the sun goes down. Okay, so we arrived in Telford last night. I've been to this area before. In fact, we came here exactly 1 year today, and last year it was absolutely baking and we were really hot. It's a bit cool and windy today, so slightly different. Not so many people about. We stayed once again in the travel lodge that you can see behind me. We came out of here this morning and we went to breakfast at a little cafe up there, which you can't see from here, but I took some pictures of it, so you'll see those anyway. Last night we went to Asda, which again is very convenient, just up one of the side roads from here. And where I am now, we're in front of a public area where it appears they're constructing a lighting rig, so there must be something on here at the weekend, I'm guessing. Haven't heard anything about that yet. There's also a few stalls over there selling things. Again, I think they're the ones who got here early for the weekend. And then over behind there's a civic centre and there's a Costa there, and there's a Green and King pub called the Wrekin Giant, which you can probably just about see in the background, which is where we went for our tea last night. So everything is within 1 or 2 minutes walk from this travel lodge, and just behind Ruth, who's holding the camera, is a Premier Inn, so if you prefer them you can stay in there. The other feature is the lake. And our travel lodge room, I said this last year, but couldn't get a decent picture. The travel lodge rooms largely overlook Southwater, the little lake behind us. And we took a walk around that last night. It was dusk and it looks totally different. And actually quite nice. It was cloudy, but we were hoping it wouldn't be, so we could look out for the Northern Lights. Anyway, let's go over again to the lake now and see what it looks like in the daytime. So this is Southwater, the lake, and just beyond that is the town park. Now, I've said before about Telford, everything is pretty compact here, all the shops and big shopping precinct behind us there, all the restaurants and bars, places to stay, and a huge park with lakes in it to go and enjoy yourself. And of course the exotic zoo down at the far end, which we did visit last year. Might take another look though. Found out what that framework was for. I was thinking a lighting rig for some kind of performing show, but it's not a weekend festival after all. It's a 3-week long festival, and what they're going to hang up there is a big screen, so people can watch the screen as they're here enjoying themselves. Okay, we mistimed it, I guess. We could have come along and been part of that experience, but we do actually like a quiet time, let's be honest. This is the pensioner talking now. Moving up to North Yorkshire now, and the village of Hebden. Now, it's a tiny little village with not a lot happening, but people come here from miles around to try their tea rooms. As you can see, it gets pretty busy and there's limited parking around here, so you may have to park a little bit of a walk away. While you're here, you can also visit the village library. Just like to stress that this is Hebden in North Yorkshire, not to be confused with Hebden Bridge, which is in West Yorkshire, which is another great place to visit, and perhaps we'll do that another day. Right now, though, we're taking a train trip that I mentioned previously from Headbolt Lane, the new station just outside Liverpool, and going the rather long way round to Burnley and then Blackburn. So I head out to Headbolt Lane on a Merseyrail train and then switch platforms and head on from there on this Northern Rail train heading up towards Manchester. We finally go around the world and end up back at Burnley where we've been before, but this time I'm not getting off at this station. I'm going to carry on the line all the way through to Blackburn. So this is one of my whistle-stop tours of Blackburn, so I only get to visit a few places. First I visit the Blackburn Market, which, as I explore around inside on the ground floor, looks much like a traditional market with the stalls and some places to eat and drink. I decide not to refresh myself down here, but to go up a level, and above the market is one huge shopping centre. I take my refreshments at Costa because I want to find out something. This is a tiffin, which is my favourite snack to have with my cup of coffee, and I tried to get one of these in Burnley Costa a few months ago, and they told me they'd stopped stocking it because nobody in Burnley likes tiffin. Good heavens, I've never heard that one before. So Blackburn is fine. I drink my coffee, I have my tiffin, and I have a quick look round the shopping centre. Whichever way you turn, there are shops and shops and more shops. A quick walk round the immediate vicinity and I saw several decent wall murals, a pub called the Drummer's Arms, I guess a drummer would need those, and then at the end of a fairly long street I spotted a postal order. Sorry, the postal order. My place for lunch, it's Wetherspoons. And immediately opposite, so behind the camera at the moment, it's the BBC. And I work for BBC Radio, and so I can tell you that the journalists do love to have a pub nearby. And walking back from the pub towards Blackburn Station for my train home takes me through the cathedral grounds. So here is a final shot from Blackburn of the magnificent cathedral. The train back home from Blackburn round the long route the far side of Manchester was cancelled. Once your train's cancelled, you are allowed to make your own way home however you can, and I picked a train that was just leaving to go down to Bolton, and from there I changed to get to Wigan. As you will see, the route from Bolton to Wigan is for diesels only. Not all the lines in the north area are electrified yet. The sign on the platform is actually for bi-mode trains that can run on electric or diesel. The trains on this day were a longer length than usual, and I put this down to the fact that the cancelled trains were probably hooked on the back to get them into the place they needed to be next. I've said before that I can't really film the screens at the station because of the flicker that's involved, but if you can see the areas with a white background on this destination board, those are the cancelled trains. The final leg on Merseyrail is generally pretty reliable. And that's Travel Tuesday for this month. Okay, welcome to Travel Tuesday, and today I'm standing in front of a train that's been running on Merseyrail since 1978. It's just about to leave and I want to be on it because that's what I'm travelling by. It's being preserved. This is the one that's been bought for £1, and we'll tell you more about that as the months go on. But for now, come on, let's get on the train. This is 507001 back in its original livery. In recent years, Merseyrail trains have been looking like this as they advertise the routes and the places you can go rather than the original train. This is Merseyrail's own footage of 001 as it comes out of the depot with the new, or rather old, heritage livery on it. As I said, the train was bought for £1 by the Class 507 Preservation Society. They raised nearly £15,000 to transport it down to its new home, and I'll tell you more about that as the months go on. We started off by showing you me boarding the 001 train on one of its last public journeys from Southport, and these still photos were taken by my friend Alan, who was with me. The late Queen Elizabeth II opened the Merseyrail network on October the 25th, 1978. She unveiled the plaque at Moorfield Station and then travelled on 001 out to Kirby. Its new home will be down at the Cunard Valley Railway in Shropshire, but it's got a couple more things to do before then. There'll be a full-day tour of the Wirral line and also a full-day tour of the Northern line, but both of those are already fully booked. Moving on, and we took one of the new trains that more or less dominate the lines now, and the Class 777 took us over to Liverpool Central, which has a side entrance into Bold Street that you see here, and Bold Street opens us up onto Concert Square, a great place for nightlife. I thought we could also probably catch a sing-along if we wandered round for a bit. And so we came full circle back round to Bold Street again, where we had a cup of coffee, a piece of cake of course, and then back down to the Merseyrail station at Liverpool Central and home. So I've been driving along the A51 from Chester to Nantwich for years, and in the past 10 years or so I've been coming on this route on the bus. You pass by these hay-made statues that are about, 50 foot tall, something like that. It's hard to say with their perspective and all that, but they're big. just put it like that. They're in the middle of a field at Snugbury's ice cream farm, and I've just driven by. Me drive past ice cream? That's just not credible. So I decided to call in here today, and obviously the bus doesn't stop here, so I've had to drive. Lots of people come to have their photograph taken in front of Paddington. Paddington's only the latest of the sculptures that they've had here. A few years ago I remember seeing a Dalek in the field, which was quite interesting for me as a Doctor Who fan. Anyway, we'll go and have an ice cream now, if that's all right with you. We're back on home ground at Arrow Park now, and inside Arrow Park there's this building. It's called Arrow Hall, and we've never been to this before, but it's been hiding away there in the trees. It's run by the National Autistic Society, and occasionally they do have an open day to raise some funds. This was one such day, and most of it was outdoors, but you did actually get to look inside the front part of the hall. Obviously the rest of it is all private. I hope they raise plenty of money for their organisation, and we hope that there'll be many more of these. Back in Wallasey, and the house that I bought in 1989, and you may recall last month as I was moving in that there's a pathway up to the front of the house from the pavement. Well, I needed more than that for my mobile disco operations, so I knocked down part of the front wall and I paved the front area so you could drive a vehicle onto it. To be more precise, back a vehicle onto it and then have access to the side path down to the back garden. You may be able to see a gate at the end of the path. These pictures were actually taken a lot later than 1990 because most of my unloading was done at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and I didn't video in the dark. And you can see from the back garden, from the shed with no windows, didn't want anyone looking in at my equipment. There's a back gate there which leads down the side of the house and to the vehicle that's parked up front. The van had to be parked quite well forward across part of the pavement because of the tailgate at the back. Staying in the Wallasey Borough and down at New Brighton on the front, you'll notice people hanging around on the beach as though they're waiting for something. Well, in fact they are. This was September the 6th when the Queen Mary II Cunard liner was coming into Liverpool, and you'll notice that the photographers are all queuing to get a picture of the ship as she sails in. Queen Mary II couldn't actually get into the Mersey until the tide was fully in, and the people with cameras had to keep moving backwards with their tripods as the area they were initially standing in was eventually underwater. Eventually we catch sight of the ship just out by the Mersey Bar, and it comes in past the lighthouse at New Brighton and along the River Mersey into the cruise liner terminal at the pier head. Now, some of the best views of the boat might have been from Birkenhead, but as we hang out in the Wallasey area mainly, this is where we took our pictures. To save having to fight my way through the other photographers, I stood well back and flew my drone over the area, and these are the pictures I got from my DJI Mini 3 Pro. Considering this was on a Friday, the area was quite busy as the kids had gone back to school and people were back at work, and yet the place was quite crowded. In Great Britain, the bottom 10% of households have an average of less than £100 in savings, compared to the top 10% who have an average of £215,700. So, about these very rich people then.
They wouldn't want you to see how they bathe in a bathtub made of gold, filled with gold. Even the sink plug is gold. Or how they make paper planes with money. Wipe themselves with money. Your money. Your money. Your money.
Speaking as someone who's in the bottom 10%, I don't want to put my money into a bank. My £100 goes into buying small amounts of shares using the free apps that are available on your smartphone. Over the last 12 months, I've tried Free Trade, which was okay, and Lightyear, also okay, but I found the best one for me was this one, Trading 212. They give you a debit card, and while the money is there and not invested in anything else, they pay you interest at one of the best rates that I've managed to find. Fintech. But of course I spend more time with video technology, and I'm going to whiz through the devices that I currently have in service. You already know about the drone that I used to film Queen Mary II. The DJI Action 2 I bought 2 years ago to take to Australia, and that was under £200. And the new kid on the block is the DJI Neo drone. It was released on September the 5th, and it's quite remarkable. To avoid a lot of the regulation, a drone has to be under 250 grams, and the Mini 3 Pro that I already use is 249 grams, very well engineered. But this new drone is very lightweight, probably lighter weight than most smartphones. It's a pocket drone, and it really does fit in your pocket. Prove that later. And it retails at £169, which I see as a bargain. Watching DJI's own advert for the product, it seems you have to be very athletic and acrobatic to take full advantage of the drone. Well, I hope that isn't the case, because I can't see myself doing any of this stuff. But I'm still convinced that it can be a very useful tool for me, and I'm sure you'll discover why as the next few months go on. So when I leave the house on a nice day and I don't even need a coat, here's what I need to have in my pockets. There's my wallet. It's got my bus pass in it. There's my phone. Obvious reasons for needing that. And there's a drone. This is a picture of a popular action camera. It's the GoPro Hero, and DJI also have some action cameras. There's the Action 4, which is the most recent, unless by the time you're watching this there's an Action 5, and it looks quite like a traditional camera in shape. Before that was the Action 3, which was also a bit like a standard camera or a GoPro. And then the Action 2 before that, the one I bought in 2022, quite different. It's a modular system, and the modules clip together magnetically, so the basic camera clips to an expansion module magnetically, and a mini tripod is available which also clamps to the bottom of the expansion unit magnetically. And the expansion unit gives you wireless remote control as well as extra power and connectivity, and it allows you to remote control the camera if you've stuck it on a tripod some way away. The remote control shouldn't get lost because that can be magnetically attached to the tripod for storage. And that's all the bits I've got for you for now, so I'm going to leave you with some pictures that the drone took pointing in the opposite direction from the River Mersey and the sea, back across New Brighton and Marine Lake. I also flew the drone across Fort Perch before landing on the beach beside it. In the autumn of 2022, we flew to Perth in Western Australia, and we centred our stay around the Dawesville area near Mandurah. This is the Dawesville Channel, and our family live on one side of the cut, as it's called locally. They live in Dawesville, and we stayed in a chalet on the other side, which is called Wannonup. This bridge is the only way across the cut for road traffic, and we were regularly using this, including a walkway which is underneath and out of sight from here. The area of greenery you can see over there is the Cut Golf Course, and Colette and her family live in a house that backs onto that golf course. As we swing round to the left, you can see a stretch of water which is called Collins Pool, and we'll explore that a little later on. Zooming in a little closer on the golf course and Southport Boulevard, you'll see that not only roads but little canals exist around this area, because a lot of people have frontage to the canals and they have their own boats. At the top of the picture there you can see the ocean, and we'll be looking at that later on from the golf course, because that's the beach where you can watch the sun go down. So here's the walkway which is underneath the road carriageways, and this was a path that we used more or less every day to get from one side to the other. Our chalet in Wannonup was actually in the marina, which you may have seen just then on the map. This pub, which overlooks the Dawesville Channel, is called the Cut Tavern, and we did have a meal in here one night. It has a bar on one side and a betting shop on the other. Apparently that's not unusual over in this part of Australia. Anyway, we've got lots to see, so let's take our first trip, and we're going on this train from Perth out to Fremantle. Soon after getting off the train, we run into the Chimera, which is a mythical beast with the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and the tail of a serpent. People come from miles around to visit Fremantle markets, because there's just about everything you could possibly want here, and plenty of places to have some lunch. We chose the Dutch baby pancakes. I resisted buying a typical Australian hat. Well, they didn't have the corks. What good are they? My wife Ruth is really into crystals, so her daughter took us into this crystal shop and bought us a couple of little presents. On another day we visited Bunbury Farmers Market. Now there's a Bunbury in Cheshire, and it definitely wasn't that one. There's one in WA as well, and their slogan is "From field to fork in 2 days flat." We spent quite a few weeks in Western Australia, and we covered an awful lot of miles, going somewhere nearly every day. This is Busselton Jetty. This is the longest timber pile jetty in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's 1.841 kilometres long. That's 1,841 metres if you prefer it that way. It's long, and it's home to one of only 6 underwater observatories in the world. Our views from above, from Phil's drone, give us some idea of the scale of this jetty. To get from where we were staying in Wannonup to the centre of Perth, we would take the local bus up to Mandurah. There's a transport interchange there, and then we get a train into whichever part of Perth we want. Well, on this day we got off at Elizabeth Quay, because there's a ferry from there going over to South Perth. And in case you hadn't guessed by now, the Elizabeth is our late Queen Elizabeth II, and there's a bus goes to the QE2 Medical Centre from here too. There's some interesting metalwork sculptures over here, and the metalworker is Jordan Sprigg. He uses scrap metal to create his masterpieces. See if you can recognise any of the car parts and engine parts on this, which is in memory of the last Northern White Rhino male who sadly passed away in 2018. On our return to Elizabeth Quay, we had a quick walk around the gardens in front of the Supreme Court, and then we walked around the rest of Elizabeth Quay where the boat from Rottnest Island comes in. Back in Dawesville, I'm flying my drone over the Cut golf course and back towards Colette's house, and granddaughter Jess is in the back garden there, trying to fly her little black toy drone. Not having a lot of success, I'm afraid, so I move on. I'm flying across the Cut to Bouvard Island, where there's also a village beach. You're watching a recap of an Australian visit that we made in the autumn of 2022 to Western Australia. This is Caversham Wildlife Park. It was September going into October, and back at home we were heading into autumn and our temperatures were getting colder, but of course in Australia it's spring, so it was getting warmer. Most of the time we were here it was at least 30 degrees. Caversham is definitely a touchy-feely place. You're allowed to get up close and personal with a lot of the animals and birds, and stroke some and feed some. Another day and another visit, and this is Lake Clifton in Yalgarup National Park, which is south of Mandurah. It's the thrombolite reef at Lake Clifton, which offers you a glimpse of what life was like when the Earth began. The thrombolites are one of the first life forms on Earth, dating back approximately 570 million years, and they produce oxygen that made all subsequent life possible. The Lake Clifton thrombolites are approximately 2,000 years old, and they're the largest in the southern hemisphere. We've come back to the Wannonup side of the Dawesville Channel, and this is where we're staying in the marina in a very nice chalet. So let's fly over the marina and have a closer look at that. This is a cafe restaurant right on the marina front, and this is the view of it from our balcony in our first floor chalet. These are the chalets, and that's the one we're staying in. This is another trip up to Mandurah and a different area again. This is Dolphin Quay this time, and we then go on to explore the foreshore area. There's a place called Todd's, which we went for breakfast, and I have a feeling Todd's is actually a chain because there's more than one of them. There is, of course, a tourist fun train running around this area, but I never actually got to go on it because I was too busy filming it. From a tourist fun train to a full-size train that we found when we visited Dwellingup. Have you noticed how places end in UP all around this area? Well, Dwellingup was a busy centre for the timber industry until there was a disastrous fire in January of 1961. Most of the surrounding timber mills then ceased operation. So in 1974, the residents formed the Pinjarra Steam and Hills Railway Preservation Society. It's a bit of a mouthful. This later became the Hotham Valley Tourist Railway, and we did notice one of these engines was steaming up ready to go, so we thought we'd go and buy some tickets and get ourselves on a trip. You can't drive across all the dams in Australia, but you can drive across this one, the North Dandalup Dam. It was constructed in 1994. It's actually the newest dam serving Perth, and it has a capacity of 75 billion litres. Quick look around the lake and you'll see where all that water is. If you follow the road across the dam, it winds down below, and there's an area where you can picnic and have a bit of a paddle, and you can get a really good idea of the scale of the dam as the wall of stone goes up behind the picnic area, and you can see just what a magnificent construction it is. But in terms of dams, you haven't seen anything until you've seen this one at Collie. There's plenty of places to walk around this area, but you can't drive across this dam. The road's been closed for a while. But the thing you do want to do is find the observation point, because this gives you a view right across the front of the dam. And rather than being a load of rocks, as the previous one was, this dam has a wall mural believed to be the world's largest. It was painted by Guido van Helten, and it's called Reflections. It's inspired by local stories and photos, and once again Phil flew his drone for us and got some absolutely magnificent pictures of the artwork on the front of the dam. Guido used abseiling equipment and suspended platforms, and he camped in the bush for 4 months while he was creating this, the biggest dam mural on the planet, and I wasn't swearing. He dangled from ropes, wearing a headlight, painting at 4 a.m, and eventually coated 8,000 square metres of the Wellington Dam wall. He also painted huge lifelike human images inside a nuclear cooling tower in Chernobyl, by the way, and he's coated apartment towers in India's biggest slum and worn a bulletproof vest while painting a multi-storey building in the Ukraine. So he gets about. Taking the train once again into Perth city centre. And we walk up a steep hill into King's Park, and that gives us an appetite. So we get fish and chips in newspaper. I know that's not allowed anymore, but this is specially prepared newspaper. King's Park is home to the spectacular Western Australian Botanic Garden, and they display over 3,000 species of the state's unique flora. Florida Beach is about an hour's walk from where we were staying, and it was a hot afternoon. We didn't realise it was going to be such a long walk, frankly, but we'd gone to this area to see kangaroos. I get the impression they built a housing estate here in an area where kangaroos used to live wild. Kangaroos are obviously not put off by this, so if you live here, you can look out the window and find kangaroos on your lawn. Collins Pool is a short walk from where we were staying, and so we spent quite a few hours here on different days, and we found this cafe, not that it was lost, called the Leprechaun. Great place for breakfast. Don't know if it was an Irish breakfast or an Australian breakfast, but you know what I mean. A cooked breakfast, traditional style, and all that scenery, and right on the edge of the water. We're actually in this area to see the Serpentine Falls, and it's a short walk down to the pool in front of the falls, where it says you mustn't swim, and people still swim. I'm not sure why they put up those notices, nobody reads them. One of the good things about having a drone is that you can fly up and see where the water's coming from, and as you can see here, it's coming down from the mountains and flowing into this pool. You can see more of where that water's coming from if you refer back to the original videos in the Maythorn Monthly from the autumn of 2022. And we're going to finish as promised with the sunset, as the sun sets over our video, and we're back in the area where Colette lives, adjacent to the golf course and the Dawesville Channel, and the beach right here is called the Pyramids Beach. The snakes live here too, and you're constantly warned that they might be about, but we didn't actually see any while we were walking these paths. So that's it, our recap from Western Australia, where we stayed in Wannonup by the Dawesville Channel, and we explored a lot of the beaches nearby and a lot of the attractions further away. Hope you enjoyed it, and enjoy the sunset over the ocean.